If you have driven on Lejeune Road just north of Berg Road, you have probably noticed the outstanding group of houses that make part of the French Normandy village. This village's concept was to recreate the density of a small European town, with rows of houses with very little frontage facing one another on the block, continuing with an almost unbroken roofline. An intimate scale of European villages, the French province of Normandy contains numerous examples of townhouse construction dating from the 15th and 16th centuries. Their design is characterized by gables roofs with wooden overlapping shingles, half timbers used as ornamental detail and separation of the stories, chimneys piercing the roof slopes, and pronounced overhangs in the bays of the second story. Attorneys Joaquin and Sofia Padilla bought one of these properties, not only because they think of it as a beautiful and unique historic house, but also because it conveys the perfect ambiance to raise a family.
I think that most people who come to our house and who live in the gables have always said, I've always seen those and I've always wondered what they look like inside. I mean, we always, almost to a person, we get that. And when they come in, they have no idea, you know, sort of, I think they're expecting like a little tiny little place. And, you know, I don't think they understand. And then there's a sort of courtyard in the backyard. And I don't think anybody ever realizes that there's a backyard there, that, you know, we have that space. So I think that, and that happened to us as well. When we, you know, when we looked at it, you think it's going to be small, but actually the way that they're set up and designed, it has a nice feel to it.
He refers to the fairly sizable backyard space located at the center of the village and which brings together all the neighbors of this community. Drivers on Lejeune Road could never imagine that such a beautiful space is hidden behind the stucco walls. For Mr. Padilla, this is his world hideaway, and best of all, it's just a few feet away from a main road.
You know, we spend a lot of time outside, and we've lived in places where you don't have access to a yard. And, you know, with 3 kids, for us, that was, you know, a big deal for us. And it's not, again, it's not a huge backyard, but it's enough for them to play and do their stuff, and also for us to be out there and sit and relax, because it really is a private area, and it's, when you get back there, it's quiet. And Lejeune is, you know, feet away, and you don't even think about it.
The French Normandy village has undergone considerable alterations over the course of time, including an original attached garage that later was enclosed for a living area. Also, the units with frontage on Lejeune Road had doorways that opened directly onto Lejeune, but when this road was widened to 4 lanes, the doors were closed and filled with stucco over.
My mother-in-law, and there may be more in the home, my mother-in-law, when she was redoing her home, they found the original door to the home still inside of the wall that they had covered up. Someone had covered up at one point and just left the door inside the wall, covered it up, and they when they were doing their remodel, they uncovered the door. So, as a matter of fact, they pulled it out, and on her home, the original door is now their front door. I think the floors are original because I've been in most of the homes in the village, so I think that the floors are original. Fireplaces have always been here. We use the fireplace, yeah, a couple times a year, especially this year. You know, it got really cold in January, February. We use it. Matter of fact, our neighbors use it too. And I come home from work at night and I can tell that, you know, the Tuttles will have a fire, or you know, whoever's got a fire going in the fireplace. So that's nice.
Another visible touch of originality is the vines that grew in front of the house. This is the only house that possesses such a distinctive and elegant piece that blends in perfectly with the theme of the French Normandy village.
Yeah, the front of the house is sort of, you know, unique to, I think, to our place. We may be the only home that has the vines growing on the walls. And I can remember when we first, and it's always been there, as far as I know, since I've lived there, it's always been there. It's not something that we grew. It was there. But I remember when we moved in, within the first week of being here, our neighbors, the Tuttles, came over and said, "What are you going to do with the vines on the wall? Are you going to keep them, or are you going to take them down?" I said, "No, I'm going to leave it." And their response, "Oh, fantastic, great. We don't want those to be cut down. We think it looks great." So all I do is every few months I trim it back and keep it away from the windows, and that's it. It does its own thing.
The Padilla family found on their property a unique memorabilia that reminded us the significance of the French Normandy village back in the 1920s. A newspaper article from the Miami Herald dated from 1926, which portrayed this village as one of the ultimate luxury architectural projects in the city of Coral Gables. The village called for the construction of 71 units, of which only 11 were actually constructed due to the financial crisis of the time. In 1935, the townhouses were used to house male students for the University of Miami, and during World War II, the houses were used to quarter male soldiers. It wasn't until 1952 that the units were sold for private ownership.
When George Merrick, he had a real vision for what, he wanted Coral Gables to be. And, with the historic homes in this village and the Chinese village and sort of linking those villages together. So I think it's important for us, and the people who live here, to maintain it so that, that's not lost, that people can still come here and see what George Merrick, his vision was for this city. It's amazing that you think that, people were here 100 years ago or 90 years ago, and here you still have these homes in great shape. I mean, this home is, 90 years old, and still works for a modern, family, of five of us here, so it's important.
The French Normandy village was a unique design of architects John and Colton Skinner, and today continues to be a motive of inspiration and pride for our Coral Gables, the city beautiful. We have now concluded our tour through the most prominent villages of Coral Gables. Join us next time with more of the historic houses that remind us why we live in the city beautiful.